Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ful-on, your Fulham-centric football podcast. I'm your host, Ash Woolford. Joining me this week are the two Jacks. Mozza, how you doing, buddy?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. How are you doing?
Nervous, but we'll talk about that in the next couple of minutes, won't we? AJ, how you doing, buddy?
I'm okay, all things considered. Similar to you, I'm absolutely bricking it, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, it's a bit of an odd one, isn't it? If we'd done this recording on Monday night, I would have been full of confidence and been like, it don't matter, we're going to win, it's all easy. But as this week has sort of gone along, that nervous bubble has definitely arisen, which is it's not been great. So well, anyway, let's talk about it. Let's get the introduction to the game, and hopefully we have a fun one through our nerves, I guess. Mozza, I'm going to start with you on this one, mate. FA Cup quarter-final. Big occasion for the club, obviously. Last time we were in FA Cup quarter-final, we obviously had that infamous day at Old Trafford. It's important, I think, for us to sort of keep it into perspective. We are effectively, potentially, 90 minutes away from making it to Wembley. That's a massive thing, isn't it?
Utterly. I think in one of our previous pods, we were discussing what was more important in our personal opinions about where we finish in the league and if we could potentially get to an FA Cup semi-final or final and even win the trophy. And it's got that late in the season now where, for me, I think I would prefer the cup or a final. But either way, if we get to Wembley in the semi-final, I think that would be magic, a massive confidence boost for the club, the players. Hopefully, we can get there. I'm not as nervous as you two have mentioned, though. But I'm the sort of person, I won't lose any sleep over it. But on the day of, I wake up in the morning. There we go, and I expect to see a lot of fans holding up flags like that and whatnot. But yeah. I think it's massively important for us, and yeah, fingers and toes crossed and all sorts.
Yeah, obviously, AJ, it's not been that long since we played Palace at home in the league. A day that we all want to forget about very, very quickly. It was not a good day for us.
Indeed.
Palace are going to be buoyed a bit by the fact that their news that Jean-Philippe Mateta has recovered from nearly dying and only missed one game and is back for this one. It's going to be a tough game, right? Like what we got to do differently from that game that we played against Palace a couple of weeks ago.
Is everything an answer? That game was diabolical, and I think it doesn't help our case that somehow, despite that performance, we go into this game as favourites. I think we probably would have preferred to be the bookies' underdog in this one, considering the last fixture we played against them. But don't look into that too much, I suppose. With that in mind, what do we need to change? We need to be direct, we need to be offensive, but we also need to make sure we don't make silly mistakes. The Manchester United game, I think we kind of got away with one. It was almost 90 minutes of who can make the most mistakes and get away with it. And I'd like to not see that sort of performance against Crystal Palace because I feel they might be more inclined to punish us for it than Manchester United were. And Palace have a little bit more diversity to their attack compared to just marking Rat Boy Fernandez. What do we need to do in terms of our offense? We've definitely got to get whoever is playing up top on the ball as much as possible and get them playing into connective play. I think Nunez did that exceptionally well with his hold-up play in the last fixture we saw him in. I'd like to see that again, and I think it's likely we'll see Nunez start with Jimenez coming off of a very long international campaign.
But looking at that, it's a very positive international break for Raul Jimenez. He's going to come back
Very positive.
absolutely brimming for like 4 goals, winning the Nations League for the CONCACAF, player of the tournament. That's going to be massive confidence for him. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he did start personally. But it's always good when you've got competition for spaces. One thing we do need to make sure we definitely do that we didn't do in the Palace League game is actually have a shot on target. That will help. Obviously we didn't
Yes,
have a
that
single
would
shot on
be
target in that game, which was very frustrating.
that'd be incredibly useful into winning a game.
Mozza, looking at this one, I don't usually ask you this one, but I'm going to ask you today. Other than sort of Jimenez and Eunice, as we were speaking about, what other players do you want to see utilised in this game? What are you expecting, sort of squad-wise, coming into this?
Well, I was going to ask, what sort of formation do you think we'll go with, given the last few league games we've had? But you guys can, or we can discuss that in a minute. But yeah, just sort of off the back of what you talked about there with Jimenez starting, I think it would be a good idea for him to start. And given how well the game goes, 60 or 70 minute, we'll probably see a Muniz appearance. I'd love to see Sessegnon start. I'd really love that. I think he needs it. He's proven himself, and it's not off the back of how much of a heroic moment he had in the last game against Spurs, but I don't want him to become what do we call it? Not an injection player. Sorry, I can't remember the phrase at the moment. But what is it? Go on, tell me, because impact player. That's it. Sorry, got an awful lot going on in my mind. I'm moving house, so that's my excuse. But yeah, I think he would be more useful not being an impact player, because I know Harry Wilson as well, who obviously won't be available, said that last year. Yeah, I think if we're looking at the back, we got Castagna, Bassi, Anderson. Now, obviously, when we played Palace recently in the league, there was our own goal. I mean, everyone. It wasn't a good game by any of our squad. That performance was awful. I don't know if I would rather have Diop start than Anderson, to be honest. We know we're going to have Robinson left back. And of course, yeah, Lukic is now available as well. Well, he was always available for the cup game after the league ban. So I think we'll be seeing Lukic and Zanderberg in midfield. But I'm more worried about what sort of formation Marco Silva will go for. So yeah, let's discuss.
Well, you look at formations. I don't see this being anything other than usual standard applies really going forward. There's no mitigating circumstance to play 5 at the back. It's not like when we didn't have Lukic and we were trying to sort of cover the work he did in the aggregate with players that we had on the pitch. With him back, I fully expect to go back to the 4-4-2 as it was. Even though it's not really that, it's more 4-2-3-1. Yeah. So you're looking at it. I think realistically, I think the discussion more likely to be who's going to play in that 10 position. Is it going to be one of those games where AP comes in? Are we going to see Smith Rowe playing there? Smith Rowe, the last couple of games has been way below standard. And I know there's now this inkling with Fulham fans to sort of, I don't know, write off the rest of the season from him. Don't expect too much from him for the rest of the year.
Would you expect him to
Hope that he
start?
can get his confidence back. For me, I think AP's got to start in this one because I think out of the two of them, he's shown the most, at least willing in the last couple of games. That as I said, as we keep saying before, you can sort of accept a lack of quality, but you can't accept a lack of effort. And that's sometimes the issue with Smith Rowe. And it may just be as we discussed in the past that it's not a case of lack of effort. It's just his style of play. He's so relaxed that when you're doing things well and it's working, no one questions the work rate because it's relaxing. It just looks comfortable. But as soon as things start going a bit bad and they're not working, you just look lazy. But it's not. You're not. Nothing's changed in the effort you put in. It's just whether things are working or not. So the number 10 position could be quite uh could be quite interesting to see what we do there. So I reckon the right wing might also be interesting. I'd ask AJ. Willian
Mhm.
came in for the last game and looked really, really, really good in that position. And I think it really worked bringing uh, having Traore there to come off the bench and attack a tired defence,
Yep.
because the last thing you want after playing 70 minutes of football is Adama Traore running at you, who's just come off of the come on. What are you expecting there? That especially on that right wing, it's an interesting one really for us. It's one of those positions that I don't know. I just don't know.
Willian won't play out on the right, so that means that the left mid slash left wing position will go to one of Willian or Sessegnon. I'd suspect it's more likely to go to Willian than Sessegnon, but you never know. We've got Arsenal on Tuesday. He might have one eye on that and the fact that this is a cup game and go, you know what, Sessegnon, you've played pretty much every cup game so far. This is your job. You're in the cup. Play your cup game. Right wing, it's very likely going to be Iwobi, but he gets back Thursday tonight from international duty, so he's only going to have 2 days. Well, 1 day training session with the squad, and then the match day. So that could be detrimental. But I don't think for a player like Iwobi who knows his job in general, it will impact him too much. But if we don't see him start and we see a Dharma start ahead of him, it'll be for that reason, I think. The fact that he's had a couple of international games and has only just come back the day that we're recording this Thursday for anyone watching, because obviously it'll go out on Friday. Um, I think that's likely how we'll see the wings. My money would be on Willian and Iwobi, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Sessegnon Traore. I don't think there'll be any combination of the two. I think it will either be one or the other. I don't think we'll see like Sessegnon and Iwobi, for example.
Yeah, it's an interesting one really, because I think that especially when you look at squads and you go, if we definitely have a cup squad, if we definitely have a league squad, like some teams do. For us, obviously, we're a small squad, so nothing major changes. But you know, Muniz has started in every cup game so far,
Yeah.
even at Old Trafford. Iwobi's been on the wing again. Iwobi's biggest problem the last couple of weeks is he's not really putting great performances for us. But I think it's all just been down to his energy levels. I think he's been desperate for a rest. And who
Mm.
knows? I know he's been away on international duty, but it could have been a break he needed. I'm pretty sure sharing a bed with Olaena has probably been great fun for him. So, we'll see how
Quite
that works for
literally
him. We might,
sharing a bed.
yeah. So we'll see how that works for him. Calvin Bassey's in the same sort of thing there, coming back Thursday today in order to come play on
Yeah.
Saturday. But Calvin's, been outstanding so far this season, especially in the cup. He's been, great in that position. So it's an
Trent
interesting
has
one. But
played in the cup too, though. To be fair.
yeah, it's an interesting one. I think the most important thing for us on Saturday is that Berger and Lukic are going to be available to play,
Mm.
because
Yep.
we look a completely different team when both of those players are on the pitch. Lukic, when he first came to Fulham, we weren't really sure what we'd signed, and then very quickly sort of established himself as a very important player for us, especially since we lost João Palhinha. And Berger is just every single game got better and better and better. I still haven't seen the limit to how there doesn't seem to be that ceiling on how good he is so far for us, which is
No.
great because he's been excellent. And he's probably could even be a wild shout for a player of the season. He's been that good. Arguably one of the positions that we have to worry about is left back and Jedi. We know he's missed we know he's missed the international break because of this groin injury he's had. I believe that he was. I believe he was kept back because it was sort of the week break he needed to rest it because he needed to. And I think it was in mind with this FA Cup game there. So we'll see how that goes. It's an interesting one, really, squad-wise, because it's really hard to pinpoint. And that for me is where some of the nerves come from for Saturday. I don't know about you two. It's just that I don't know what I'm going to see starting to then have the confidence to go. That's what it is. I don't know if you guys have got anything else you want to add about potential squad or what we might see.
Well,
I think the one thing we all know is Bernd Leno is going to be in goal. So
Yeah.
Just quick. Sorry, I might have embarrassed myself as I usually do. But yeah, when I was first talking about what players I might want to see in the starting lineup, I forgot about Robinson and that groin injury, and I mentioned him. My fear now is, all right, this is your fault, Ash, because you've made me worried now. What if they put Sessegnon in that left back row if he's not?
I don't see that happening. I genuinely believe that it's only a slight concern for me.
Who else have we got?
The only reason why it's a slight concern is because nobody at the club's come out and said he's not playing.
Okay.
But I believe my personal thing is I believe he was kept back at the request of the club to say he needed this week's rest. So we'll see how that goes.
So
if he doesn't start, I think there's more likelihood we'll go to a back five, and we'd see Sessegnon playing as a wing back as opposed to a full back.
Yeah, I
think
so.
That's the more likely scenario, and we would do that as well to match their system with their back five. However, that didn't work out for us brilliantly last time, so not ideal. Yeah, I have a question mark on whether or not we actually start Kenny in this one, because the midfield is where we got completely and utterly destroyed in the last fixture. Granted, we didn't have Lukic, and granted, we didn't start Kenny, but it was Andreas and Berge in that midfield on their own. I like Andreas's performance of recent. It's hard to say that you should shift him from the squad, but if Lukic is available and Berge are available, they're both playing. That's just a given. So then that third spot, do we want it to go to Kenny, have a flat midfield free, and just completely control the game? Or do we want to go with Andreas, play more of a 10 and two defensive-minded midfielders, and play quicker, more attacking football? It's what is more beneficial against this Palace side at home. I prefer the idea of Kenny personally, but I can see why Andreas would get the pick ahead of him.
Yeah, I can't see Kenny starting, but I somewhat agree with you. I wouldn't be upset if that did happen, but I think it's a bit more of a risk having Kenny, but I would expect to see him at some point.
Yeah, I think for me, my biggest concern there would be when we played Palace in the league at home. Will Hughes had the run of the centre of Craven Cottage, and I think with Lukic being on that pitch, that's probably less likely to happen, and therefore that might free up a bit more space going forward for someone who's a bit more ably moving than Tom Kearney is. But I wouldn't be too upset if I saw Tom Kearney in the starting lineup on Saturday alongside Lukic and Berger, and Fulham basically going, look, we know from this game 3 weeks ago, whoever wins the midfield battle is going to win this game, right? So we've set up in a way to go, we have full trust in the three players that are playing, up front and on the wing, that they're going to create enough for that to happen. We know that we rely heavily on Jedi overlapping to get crosses in. Less so on Castagna, but we'll see how that rolls and we'll go with it. Look, let's finish this one how we always finish it. Player to watch on both teams, scoreline prediction, and then also just added this one just on a barometer of how much you are shitting it, because it's fun for people to know, isn't it? Mozza, we'll start with you, mate. Give us a player to watch on each team, and then and the scoreline prediction, please.
You just mentioned Will Hughes for Palace because he was something else for them, and made us look silly in that last game. So I was going to say Mateta, so either Will Hughes or Mateta. If Mateta is back, and again in that same game we last played with them, he caused us a lot of problems as well. So those are my two for Palace, and I don't really know for us. Maybe Lukic, because he's been away for a bit. Maybe I just miss him. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, but. Yeah, and then we don't know who's going to start for us up front. So I'll stick with Lukic.
You got a score line prediction?
Oh, no. I've not even. Do you know what? That's one thing I've not thought about. I'll say 1-0 Fulham.
1-0 Fulham. We'll take it all day long. AJ, what about yourself, buddy?
Yeah, Will Hughes is an easy one to point out. I think he's suspended for the next league game as well for 10 yellow cards, so it's highly likely that he will play in this fixture. I think Adam Wharton is fit again now, who we didn't see in the reverse fixture from memory. I could be wrong there, but from memory, I don't remember seeing Wharton. He's someone that if they play the pair of those in midfield and we end up with someone like ESR in midfield, we could have a really tough day. No disrespect to ESR, but like we know what his effort levels are like. Players to Mateta is probably the big one for me though. He's wearing a silly mask for the game, so it's highly likely that he'll get a silly mask celebration in. Very typical. Fulham players to watch. It's whoever's in that midfield. I can't tell you which player it's going to be, but it'll be whoever it is. That'll be who we have to watch because that'll be how the game gets run. The same for the wide players. If it's Sessegnon, then he'll be the one to watch. If it's Willian, then it'll be him. Scoreline prediction 1-1. It goes to penalties. From there, I just don't know.
Don't say that.
Oh, Jesus,
From there, I really, yeah.
You just said that. You just said that out loud, and a part of my body went like that. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not even funny.
And you wanted you wanted a scale on how much I'm shitting myself. I've just had 10 buffalo wings with extra hot sauce. That's the level I'm at shitting myself.
Yeah. It's a tough one for me. Palace have had 2 weeks off, right, because of the League Cup final, and obviously they're meant to play Newcastle, I believe. So they've had 2 weeks off. They've had the players come back fit. They've had 2 weeks solid training with each other. You know, they've not even their international players have not travelled that far compared to what we've had travel.
Yeah.
So they may well be a lot fresher than us. You know, looking at the game 3 weeks ago because it's the easiest reference point. As you say, Will Hughes is easily going to be the player they have to worry about. But we also have to worry about Munoz and the crew. Because they're both very good defenders who can attack very well, and they did that. And for the exact same reason of that, the Fulham player for me to watch the most in this game is Anderson, because he had a shocker against Palace in the last game. And I think we need him to have a game like he did against Tottenham, where he was very solid. If he plays like he did against Tottenham and not like he did against Palace last time we played them, we're going to be okay. But the problem is that we know that psychologically that doesn't always work when you're playing against your old club. So we'll see how that goes. The other Fulham player to watch for me, it's going to be whoever plays in that starting striker's role. We know that, you know, Munoz and Jimenez, you know, they're not too dissimilar in players. We know that Jimenez gives us probably a bit more on the ball when we're not at the actual edge of the box than Munoz does. But if Munoz plays like he did when he came on against Tottenham, where he won absolutely everything, we'll have some joy. So who knows with that? You know, scoreline wise, I don't want this to go anywhere near penalties. If this game goes to penalties, I joked about it against United that if the game went to penalties, there'll be a fat man standing on, you know, Croydon flyover. if this game goes to penalties, I genuinely will be trying to jump in the river because I can't deal with the stress. I cannot. So I don't want it to go anywhere near penalties. I want this over and done with, nice and early. All right, so we can just
Don't
enjoy
say
the rest
that.
of the weekend.
That's a curse to the commentator if I've ever heard one.
Hey, I didn't say which way it's going to be. I just said I want it over and done with nice and early. And by nice and early, I mean
that's my concern.
I shouldn't have jumped on
goals
this
before the night.
podcast. It's given me anxiety. I was all right before this. Oh no!
Sorry, mate. It's what we do. It's what we do.
It's fine.
You
We'll
know,
get
in
TikTok
terms
run
of
up afterwards with the anxiety song that's trending at the moment.
yeah, in terms of how I actually feel about the game, as I said, that if we record this on Monday, I was full of confidence. It's been absolutely fine. As those of you who don't know, I live in Croydon. I have endless amounts of Palace fans around me on the school run every single day. The jovialness of the school run dads as we've walked past each other this week has got more and more stern as the week has gone along. I'm 100% expecting one of them to hit me in the back of the head or something tomorrow because that's the way that's going to be in a bantery way, obviously not in a serious way, but it's the way it's gone. There was definitely some evils today on the way up to school, so we'll see how it goes tomorrow before the game on Saturday. Lads, thanks so much for joining me on this one. It's a very hard game for us to call. It's a very, very big game for both football clubs. And because of that, I'm expecting an atmosphere. I'm hoping Fulham fans turn up for this one. We do occasionally have these games where we really do turn up, and we really need that on Saturday. The club, if anyone isn't aware, have asked. Yeah, the club have asked everyone who isn't aware if you are going to the game on Saturday to be sort of in your seat by 12 o'clock to sort of try to build up the atmosphere before kickoff. We will see how that goes. It's going to be interesting. We'll see you all Monday for the review of this game. Hopefully, celebrating an FA Cup win and potentially a game at Wembley. If not, someone will be crying on the podcast on Monday, and it'll probably be me. But we'll see how it goes.
That's if you
Other
make
than the game, yeah. Other than the game, obviously, I hope you all have a great weekend. Hope the game makes it a brilliant weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there that was celebrating on Sunday. Boys, make sure you look after your mums on Sunday, especially if things go our way on Saturday. Don't forget about them when you're drinking at the pub afterwards. Other than that, have a good weekend and come on, you Whites.